Open Letter to an Atheist, a fictional story by Randy Ruggles. Dear friend, I know you probably won't read this letter all the way to the end, and if you don't, that's okay. I'll understand. You see, I used to be just like you. I was bitter, full of anger and hatred. I thought the world was a cold, unforgiving place. A place where the homeless die every day on the street because they don't have adequate food and shelter. A place where young children are taught to kill before they have even learned how to read or write. A place where men who supposedly love God fly planes into buildings and murder thousands of innocent victims whose only crime was being in the wrong place at the wrong time. I used to ask, does God exist? I thought, how can an all-knowing, all-powerful God who supposedly loves his creation allow the world to get so messed up? It didn't make any sense to me. And so I did the only rational thing I knew how to do at the time. I decided to believe that God did not exist. Did you notice I said, I decided? Yes, atheism is without question a choice. I thought it was the sanest, most intellectual choice I could make. Intelligent men lauded me for coming out of the Dark Ages and into the Age of Reason. They said I was wise to give up ancient myths of a magical being in the sky who claims to answer prayers and fiddles with the laws of nature to carry out his diabolical schemes, then threatens eternal damnation to anyone who doesn't see things his way. Of pathetic Christians, I thought, hey, if you want to believe in fairy tales, that's fine for you, but not for me. For a while, my newfound atheism gave me comfort. I could follow my instincts. I could do what I wanted, to whomever I wanted, and I didn't have to answer to anybody. On the surface, it was a great life, but there was something missing. I soon realized that if God really does not exist, then who decides what's right and what's wrong? Well, if there are no moral absolutes, then I guess I get to decide. I can follow any whim I choose depending on how I feel at any given moment. I have no reason to be good. In fact, natural selection would dictate that it is my nature, even my duty, to be selfish. Only the strong survive, right? And if I was good, I'd receive no reward. If I was bad, there would be no punishment. All that awaited me after death was a long, deep, eternal sleep as my body, mind, and emotions returned to the dust from whence they came. I realized that my atheism meant I had to accept that I had absolutely no justification for judging a man like Adolf Hitler for exterminating 6 million Jews, or a serial killer like Jeffrey Dahmer who murdered 17 young boys and men, had sex with their corpses and ate their flesh for his own twisted pleasure. These men were just following their instincts, as I had done. I discovered that perhaps I couldn't even judge those who might choose to fly planes into buildings because they think they are doing the will of a mythical God. If there's no God and no absolute truth, I am no different from them because who is to say what they did is wrong? Furthermore, if there really is no God and thus no purpose to life, I have no reason to even get out of bed in the morning. Maybe there's no reason for me to live at all. Look, I know by now you've probably tuned me out. Yeah, I've heard it all before, you're thinking. Give me some concrete proof that God exists and I'll believe. Otherwise, give it up already. Well, okay. Let me ask you a few questions. Have you ever seen a radio wave? No, but you've turned on the radio and heard music, so radio waves must exist, right? Have you ever seen the wind? No, but you believe it exists because you've seen its effects. Now, here comes a biggie. Have you ever been in love? Have you ever experienced real love with your spouse, your mom or dad, your pet, even a good friend? I'm willing to bet you have. Now suppose I come to you one day and I'm so depressed because I've been used and mistreated by everyone I've ever met, and I say to you, you're wrong, love does not exist. I think you would take a long, hard look at me and respond, I'm sorry you haven't experienced love, but I have, and I can tell you, it does exist. Well, guess what? I can say the same thing to you about God. I'm sorry you haven't experienced Him, but I have, and I can tell you, God does exist, and I know because I talked to Him this morning. But we still have a problem. If God exists, why is the world so messed up? Richard Dawkins, the world's most prominent atheist, once wrote, The universe that we observe has precisely the properties we should expect to find if there is at bottom no design, no purpose, no evil, no good, nothing but blind, pitiless indifference. Well, I respectfully disagree. I submit that the world as we view it today has precisely the characteristics we would expect to find if it were created by a perfect and loving God, but destroyed by the free will, disobedience, and self-centeredness of humankind. Exactly as the Bible describes. Listen, if you want to find God, you're going to have to be open to Him. Just like you'd have to be open to love to ever find love. There's no mystery here. Ever notice how right after you buy a white car, it seems like everybody else on the road drives a white car? God is like that. The moment you become open to Him, you see evidence for Him everywhere. Jesus said, "Seek and ye shall find." Hey, I'm not trying to tell you how to act or what to do. All I'm saying is that if you're willing to humble yourself just a little, put away some of that self-righteous pride you cling to so dearly, and ask God to reveal Himself to you, He will. It might not be with some fantastic miracle like a bolt of lightning striking you from out of the sky. If that's what you're waiting for, forget it. It probably won't happen that way. And even if it did, my guess is you wouldn't believe it anyway. You'd quickly talk yourself out of it and dismiss it as merely a coincidence. Many skeptics witnessed Jesus perform miracles, and look at what they did to Him. No, the evidence for God will come when you least expect it. An answer to a prayer, a whisper in the dark as you drift off to sleep, the brilliant hues of a summer sunset, or the ever-changing colors of the aurora borealis. Or if you're lucky, you just might catch a glimpse of God's face in the smile of a child. But it'll happen, and when it does, you won't have to ask the question, does God exist anymore? Because you'll already know. And that's a choice worth making. I hope you'll consider it. Signed, A Christian Friend. P.S. Oh, by the way, when I spoke with God this morning, He told me to give you a message. He told me to tell you He loves you, and He's waiting.